2, 3, 4, 5, testing.
Good evening all. Just to get to a camera. Sorry about the delay there. As usual, it all went wrong just as I tried to transmit. Before I go on, Russ, G4SAQ, you'll be on first. So if you can be prepared to go at the end of this over, Russ, followed by James, G0DQH. And I'll get the rest of the list out shortly. Announcements. It's been fairly quiet. The next thing that's happening is the activity weekend on the 14th, 15th of May. 146 and down, and 23 SEMs. Following that, Dunstable Downs Rally on 22nd of May. But don't forget we have the activity ladder going on throughout the year. Hang on a minute, I'm just going to up the power a bit. There we go. The activity ladder going on throughout the year. For those of you who haven't seen the activity ladder, let's see if I can make it appear. There's a bit of black behind it. Right, and fade. Okay, and there is the activity ladder. It's linked from the contests and activity tab on the main website. You'll need to register, but as you can see at the moment, Gareth is leading the way, closely followed by Noel and myself. So let's see some more people on that. We've got activity ladders for 70 SEMs and for 6 SEMs on there. Last announcement is we will have a stand at the ham radio in Friedrichshafen this year. We're looking for volunteers to help us just for a couple of hours, occasionally, so that Noel and I can take a break. So if anybody is going to Friedrichshafen and is prepared to help, please come up on the chat and let us know, or nearer the time let Noel and I know by email. That'd be really useful. Okay. So let's go around the houses then. Russ, G4SAQ will be first, followed by James, G0DQH, followed by Gareth, G4XAT, followed by Martin, G8KOE, followed by Colin, G4KLB. Hope that's early enough for you, Colin. Followed by Jim, G7NTG. Gosh, good list tonight. John, G7JTT. I'm writing it down now, otherwise I'm going to forget it all. Followed by Martin, G4FKK. Oh, and Bernie, G4HJW. Sorry, I missed you earlier there, Bernie. Let me type that list out, and if people can come up and tell me if I've missed them. Oh, Roger, G3IUZ. What a busy net. So please keep the overs short so we can get through everybody quickly. But interested to see whatever content you got. Russ, G4SAQ to take it from G8GKQ and the BATC Net.
Okay, G8GKQ in the net. This is G4SAQ. Okay, I've just muted my audio, so I shan't be driving myself crazy. Yeah, very good evening to everyone. Very long time since I've been on, several weeks I would think. This is the time of year when I do a lot of boating, and I'm afraid that's been taking up all my time. I'm not sure if I explained when I was last on, but my layup, my annual layup for the boat was supposed to be 3 weeks, but I had to extend it to 5 weeks because I had a problem with the lower rudder bearing, which is a component made of Delrin, and it's quite difficult to get the sizing right. You get the outer surface of the bearing the right size to go into the hull, and the inside surface seems to be the right size to fit onto the rudder stock. But once you put the bearing into the hull, it contracts ever so slightly, just enough to make the whole setup too tight. And inevitably, having assembled it, you have to take it apart again and have a bit more skimmed off the inside until you get it right. Well, it only took 2 attempts this time. Last time I did it was in 2004, and it took 3 attempts then. And it's really difficult because the rudder is extremely heavy, and it takes 3 people at least to lift it. I had 4 people helping me to get it back in. We have to lift it manually for the first bit until I can get a jack under it, and then it's a question of jacking and blocking and jacking and blocking about 20 times until it's right up. So quite a job. Anyway, that's sorted now. It feels beautifully smooth, and my wife Helen, she's G4 SAP, but not active on the bands. Helen and I went down to Brighton a couple of weeks ago, and I was amazed at how silted up Brighton Marina is. It's a huge marina, and a lot of people spending a lot of money on their moorings there. But at low water springs, the place is a mud bank. They've managed to keep the entrance and the visitors area reasonably dredged, but my boat doesn't draw a lot of water. It's just 1.7 meters mine draws, and I left the marina about 2¼ hours after low water, and still only had 0.6 of a meter under the keel at the lowest point. So it's a difficult situation. Anyway, I've had 1 or 2 other minor jobs to sort out on the boat, but that precludes any radio work, I'm afraid. I've just not had time to do it. The good news radio-wise is that I am going to Dayton this year, first time ever. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going with a pal from Dartmouth, and that's only, I don't know, about 3 weeks away, I think, something like that. So that'll be fun. Right, I better not hold it because there's so many people on, and I don't have anything interesting radio-wise to discuss. So I'm going to put up the test card and then drop carrier. So it's James to take it, G0DQH from G4SAQ in the net.
Okay, just checking audio. It's okay, fine. Yes, good evening everyone. Let's take that off. There we go. Anyway, it was good to see some of you last weekend at the rally, and Mo and I really enjoyed ourselves there. It was great, and the bacon butties were very nice. So what I did buy there was this. I know it's old, but it'll be interesting to get it to actually work. If I can get it in the center screen, there we go. Some of you will probably recognize it anyway. Come on, there we go. So it's I know it's old, but you know, it'll be got going. What I was surprised at, there was no chips in it. It's all transistors, and it's something that I was interested in for some time, and I'd like to do a bit of Morse again. But at 77, it's harder. It's harder now to get it to stay in. But John, JTT, did the filters work out all right for your low frequency activities. I'm hoping they're okay. I spoke to Graham today, and he rang this afternoon, and it was good to catch up with Graham again. Anyway, I won't come on after this if you don't mind. I, as you probably are aware, we had new front door fitted and all new windows put in last week, and I've just managed to get the bell going again in the hallway. It was, the batteries have been in there for years, and they were just all corroded up, and new batteries and a new unit from In Excess today sorted that out. So, and for those who haven't already noticed, I'm on H.265, although be it 720, it seems to be working out fine, and this laptop seems to be coping with it quite well, an i5. So that's it from me, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of my Fanta. So I'll see you all next week, I hope, from G0DQH. The next one to take it is G4X80, I think.
Right, evening all, G4X80. Thank you, James. G0DQH, this is G4X80 joining the net. Let's have some video, that's better. Transition, come on, transition, there we go. Right, okay. Well, we've had a bit of local success actually. Justin, as you know, is battling with interference on JV. And if I just show you how bad that interference is, oh no, wrong one, pictures, here we go. Right, that's the local Crystal Palace digital TV, not quite 40 dB over the noise floor, but probably. Not surprisingly, poor old mini tuner wasn't really quite sure what on earth it was supposed to decode out of that lot, and I couldn't get in from my location here, which is daft given I can do it on 20 milliwatts on 23 sems. So that's a video of the signal we want, and that's a still of the signal that we want, and that is the BATC 3-pole filter, which has pretty much taken it out, as you can see. That's not too bad at all for a load of PCB. That's the cavity helical thing I made a while back. You can see it's taken out the one we want as well as the digital, so that's not very good. That's the 70 sems alone, and that's that, and that's that, and that is the thing that did the job. It's not particularly got a very narrow pass band, but once you get out of it, and it's a lot higher than 440 meg before you get out of it, it's minus 40 dB, and sticking that on the repeater did the job. It put the MER up 20 dB apparently from Justin's location. So I have high hopes of getting in there tomorrow. Had a fun day out at Martlesham on Sunday. Can't go everywhere of course, but I bought some nice goodies and another dish and so on, but more of that next over. Bernie, I notice you're on later. Can you tell us a little bit more about your optical DATV? I've got a feeling I might wish to explore some of that. So that'll do for this over. Okay, Martin, G8 KOE, my apologies, to take it from G4X80. I'll just give you the test card.
Right, we've made it that far. Let's see if we've got some sound. Right, go to a picture and we'll keep going. Well, I've made it again this week. Not too bad. Let's kill the. So we don't have some feedback. Been playing with a few things. The main thing, as you probably know, my main system is in the garage, which if we can go over to the garage cam as such, which is that one live. That's what the workshop looks like, and as you can see, all the rack of PC cases, which are all empty, but either I've got 23 PA or the control bits and pieces, etc. So that's what I had a problem with was the leaving the transmit on the power to the PA box, which is at the bottom of the garden, etc. So I fitted a timer in the logic-y sort of side things. Right, there we go. That's what the controller system looks like, and the one with at the bottom left is a little timer which flips in. So it means maximum time that anything will be on. I think I said it's 2 hours. That includes initial transmission time. So as I was finding, I was shutting things down, and the fan was still going, making a noise on the dish at the bottom of the garden. So that's my little system there. The other thing I was playing with, the PA that I did have in the box at the bottom of the garden, was one of the Nokia ones, which was playing up. And I tried to get the bias had all gone wrong, and I tried to correct it, but I sort of was not exactly going around in circles, so I must admit I cheated and drilled a couple of holes in the case, as you can see from this picture. Brought out the feeds, and underneath the silver thing is just a little bias network. So I just bias it up externally, and that one works fine. I thought it was going to need. I didn't think I was going to get it going sufficiently, but now I've got a standby one. So I'd actually ordered another PA from Poland. So one of those little boards came across. So I have that as a backup to the backup sort of thing. The other thing I've been playing with is the Polycom. It is what I'm using at the moment. I sort of had one unit. I ended up buying 2 units so that I could. It's probably a bit dark outside, but I've got a second camera now, which is pointing out the window, which maybe we can go to. Yeah, there you go, garden cam, as I call it, which enables me to play around the garden as such. The only thing I get is a reflection on the window, which can be a little bit annoying. But it's all the presets I find quite useful. Back to indoors. Let's go back to me. The other thing I found was with the other Polycom, the little tiny one, which one of those. I found in Windows 11, I didn't. It worked, but there was an asterisk next to the in Device Manager, and I found a little program. Well, I want the left-hand screen if I can get it. Called Companion, which I'll try and run it. Which is this little device, which finds the camera and actually checks whether it's up to date on the firmware, etc. Just in case. And it also
updated the drivers that were in Windows 11, so it got rid of the asterisk. Just probably everybody knows about it, but I didn't. But yeah, now I've got two cameras, one here and one on the windowsill for some other things. Anyway, that's probably enough waffle from me. But not really what's written on there. So I think it's round to let's find the test card again. Can't do two things at once, or even three things at once. So I think it's they call him the KLB man, isn't it, for a short transmission? So he should be okay. So I'll say 7 all for now and pass it over to Colin. Quick test card and away I'll go.
Okay, thanks a lot, Martin. Excellent. Let me just... Okay, thanks a lot. There we are, that's working. Okay, there we go. Very good evening. So, and thank you to John who posted the the birthday greetings up on the QA100 whilst I was on SQ. So, yes, another birthday. Dear, oh dear. Unfortunately, I still have to go to work. You don't get a day off, I'm afraid. So, seem to be always doing that. Well, we've been up to many things really. PAs, yes, I wasn't going to tease you with the PA, but now you've mentioned it, I have managed to acquire one of these delightful ones. So that's got a bit of go in it. There we go. That's it. So managed to get that. So that's they're quite rare nowadays. They were relatively inexpensive and commonplace at one time. Now neither is true. But pleased to get that because it runs off at 12 volts, you see, which is convenient for the van for my portable activities. So that is a pretty cool thing to get. So it's got 60 watts written on it. It probably won't. I won't run it. It won't do that. It does take quite a few amps, of course. That's the drawback. But I have got a spare 200 amp hour battery, specifically just for this. So that's all right. The other thing I've been doing, I've been clothing Raspberry Pis. We're in the process of doing an experiment. Here is the beginnings of SQ's 1 megasymbol transmitter. In fact, that's pretty much the whole thing, really. So we've been putting Raspberry Pis in their little cases, such as this. So that's that thing. There we are. Been building. Had some little PCB made from John in America, just for some band pass filters. This is for the lower bands, actually. Little band pass filters for 70. Oh, here comes my tea, hopefully. For 70 megs and 50 megs as an extra.
I'll make you tea in just a tick. I'm doing your steak. Look, David, it's a card for
Right. Okay.
It's an important card.
All right. I'll see him in a minute. Okay.
We have to wait.
XYL's in.
Have to wait.
Yeah. Only a few minutes.
25 minutes.
Dear, oh dear. Oh, they know I've got to go to work. You see, that's what it is. So that's been going on. Okay on Jim's CW device. I favour the more analog type of thing, really. But that's mine. No electronics with that. The other thing I've been doing, and I've spent a couple of days, not only in odd moments, is we go to shaky cam. I mention this because others may have an issue. One of SQ's receivers, this one, failed. This is one of these combo receivers, and the failure mode is that it won't light up anymore. Nothing. It loses all power and emits a slight squeaking noise as if it's in some sort of pain. And it's the second one to do it. That's why I'm sort of mentioning it in case anyone else has got any. There are multiple versions of this. multiple versions. I've got at least 4, but this particular one is one that's got the software that's suitable for SQ, and the newer ones are not quite so friendly as far as that's concerned. But measured the voltage regulators and 0, nothing on the input to them at all. And to cut a long story short, it was a short circuit capacitor on the line where some of them have got external 12 volts in. This one doesn't have that, but it has the space on the board for it. And there's a capacitor on the board. The nearest legend to it is F1, so you're thinking it's a fuse. So you're happily metering around and you see F1 and you put a meter on there and it's short circuit, and you think, well, it looks like a capacitor, but it's marked F1, so moving on. But no, my initial instinct was correct. It was a capacitor, because when I traced it, it's across the supply, and it was indeed dead short, and it's the second one that's happened. So I will be the receivers that are in SQ at the minute, I will be replacing that capacitor with something a little bit better to avoid future failures. Apart from that, I've had no real issues with them. So that's it. That'll probably do for me, because stuff is going on. So yeah, lots of things going on. Mainly sort of PA. I seem to be mainly involved in building numerous different PAs for different bands. That seems to be what's been happening of late. So there we go. Right, I omitted I omitted to actually look at who it's going to next. Let me see now. Crikey! Oh, there we are. Oh, they're talking to PAs. It's over to G7NTG, who may tease us with even more PAs with any luck. G4KLB. There we go. Oh, I can't get the test card. We'll go for something else, just for a change.
I like that sound. Okay. Alright, if you want, I'll tease you with PAs. And yeah, happy birthday, Colin. I hope you've had a nice day. And yes, that stealth microwave amplifier, very nice that. You are right, very lucky to get that. And it does draw a lot of current because it's class A. So pretty good that. I've actually realigned my dish and got 3 dB more on my dish, transmit and receive, and it wasn't actual pointing, that was still spot on, it was focal length that had changed, so I had to readjust focal length and it was fine. So there we go. Right, in addition to that, thank you, Gareth, for the 2 PCBs for the 70 SEMS amplifiers. One of those is going to G4HND, Alan, who's anxious to get one built, and the other one's going to me to replace the one I blew up. Because although it took 200 watts of DVB-S2 without any problems, I turned the control the wrong way and suddenly boosted it way high, and that popped it, I'm afraid. Senior moment, so there you go. Anyway, yes, PAs. I've been working on a few from Poland. One's like this. This one doesn't work. This one I haven't tested yet, but we'll see. I have actually got another one similar to this one, and I've managed to get 100 watts out of it at 2.4, so it's not particularly brilliant. So that went straight on eBay, and I did get another one that gave me 300 watts, but a friend of mine was crying out for one. They're really desperate, so it's gone to him. A nice knockdown price. So that's it. Well, apart from that, I've been playing with some real ancient equipment. There you go. There's a crystal set that's 99 years old. 1923. Even gives you a diagram in the lid of how to put an aerial up. And it actually works, but not very well. It's not a very good design, so I built my own to improve it using some proper high-Q components. I've given it a bit of thought, and ending up with that circuit. I don't know whether you can see that, which is phenomenal. It's 20 dB louder than the old 99-year-old one. Although the headphones I've used are dropping to pieces but are incredibly sensitive. These are British made by BTH in Rugby, so very good. But when I say high-Q components, I mean things like this with ceramic insulation, nice slow motion drive. And you probably think that with a crystal set you don't need a slow motion drive, but you do with that one because it picks up lots of stations. And it's very high-Q, it's very good. So there you go. Well, with that, I think I'm going to pass it around to John, and we'll see what John's got to tell us. G7JTT from G7NTG with the group.
Just got to do the happy birthday thing for Colin. Right, anyway, let's get over to me. Yeah, I've got audio. Right, a very good evening all. I'm really pleased that Bernie's on tonight because he must have known something is coming up. As some of you know, I've been off work for a little while, which has allowed me to catch up and do all sorts of things, to be honest. And although I'm resting, I'm very much resting. I've managed to box a few bits and pieces and get some bits and pieces built that I've been meaning to do for a long, long time. Anyway, if I go to this one without, hang on, which way around is it? That way up. Right, I can possibly show you. So, this is where we're going to go wrong. That is my new optical transceiver. So it's along the same lines as Bernie's original side of things, with a fairly high quality 4-inch lens in there, and it's 4-inch guttering, soil pipe rather, with the, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's the swaged end at this end where the plug goes in. But this is the nice part of it. So I found an old telescope in a skip some time back, and I took it. Most of it was broken, the actual tube was all dented and stuff, but the focuser, being it cheap, it's anyways plastic ones, does work. So a hole has been cut into the end plug, that has been glued in. I've now got adjustment. Now the thing is, whether Bernie done this on purpose or not, I don't know, but certainly it's useful. The original tube we used was inch and a quarter. Well, most telescopes are inch and a quarter or 2 inches. This is an inch and a quarter. So all I've done is effectively took the I don't know if you can see that on top. You see the screw? Just about. Took the unit out of the tube that provides it with it and fitted it within the focuser. I've had to cut it down because the focuser was probably way too long for what it was. But what it gives me about a 2-inch adjustment. So what I've done is the focal point of the lens is around about 320 mil, I think it was, or 330, I can't remember now. And I've put it an inch either side of that. So the reason I've done that is back to when I used to play around with stuff. What I did realise was that sometimes if you defocus the receive, you're able to detect signal because you're looking at a wider field, because you're not pinpoint on focus as such. But anyway, so that's one of the things on there. But these focusers I found on eBay, you can buy from China for about 14 quid or so. So actually, that's not a bad way of doing it, because definitely being able to move the unit in and out has its advantages. So even on transmit, you can go to a much more diverged signal, which allows you to find it. It'll be weaker, but you can find it. And then once you find it and you pick up on it, you can then tune up the to the focal point and then narrow the beam to the point where you're looking at. So anyway, but the other thing that I need to show, forget the super high-tech bracket that I've just made up, but this now means that with a reasonably lightweight but sturdy tripod, you've now got a receive in a gash hole box. That is a courtesy of Jim, or James rather, a 3 amp 11 volt lithium battery. So I've now got the ability, the whole thing is just attached to this. If I just plug that in, wrap everything up. So there's the transmit going away. The ring around the outside, by the way, one of the things I didn't realise until I boxed all the thing up, I should take it apart and do it, is it's very shiny on the inside as it is on the outside. I think that's causing ringing in there. So I need to go in there with just a bit of sandpaper and just dull it down a bit. But if I go on to receiving, which I don't think no, you're not going to be able to see it. But anyway, it's just the whole thing means it's incredibly portable, and yeah, I'm looking forward to testing it. And just lastly, before I hand it over to everybody, so that's the one I've got. So that's the inside part. There's the other part. The problem I've got is it has to be mounted that way up, which is the ring at the top, which I think is the right way to do it anyway. That at the bottom sits onto my tripod I've got quite comfortably, but the problem I have is, I don't know if you can really see that, but that protrudes through. So what I've just come across is a piece of metal that I had which has got a dip in it. That'll go on there perfectly. So what I'm actually thinking about doing is making that whole assembly fixed and rotatable, and then I can mount the plate, whatever I use on top, onto these 4 bolts or 4 corners of the metal work here. So anyway, I've got to get another bearing yet, because I need to be able to have the bolt is fixed on mine. It's not movable like it is on yours. But anyway, there we go. So with that, far too much as always. Let me just get back to me. I'll put that one down. Oh, sorry. Lastly, to Jim. Yes, filters are fantastic, mate. What I've actually gone for in the end is the Lambda and the, I'm going to say this wrong, is it Schnafner? Probably got it completely wrong, but anyway, the two of those. So one does the lower frequencies, one does the higher frequencies, but between the two, they pretty much knock out everything. But the problem I've got is that 20 kilohertz signal is now radiating from everything. So even though I've reduced it, so all the harmonics and stuff where it was coming down through the mains, I've reduced it. It's actually radiating now. So I'm assuming that the thing's just going to get worse and worse. I might have to just go over there with a wire cut of one night and just chop the damn thing and see what happens then. Anyway, right, round to mine, G4FKK in the group, G7JTT.
Yeah, fine, John. G7JTT, G4FKK returning. Evening all. And all very interesting so far. I'm afraid I've got nothing of great interest. Well, apart from this to Jim, actually. I think you might be interested in that, Jim. I've got a box of Ivalek radio crystals with cat's whisker. Reception is guaranteed. So there you go. So there's literally a box. I'll probably spill them all now. A box full of them there. I don't know from when they date, but it must be quite long. I mean, I bought them 40 years ago, so they were old then. Anyway, jolly good. I'll just quickly run through my notes. Dave, I won't be able to make Dunstable Downs, unfortunately, because we'll all be away. Actually, we'll be down in Bath on the 22nd of May. But I'm going to have a crack at the activity day. If anyone's going to be on 4 meters, I can put out a signal on 4. So I'll try that. Russ, good to see you again. And I'm assuming the boating, the layup went well. And you must have been out on it to notice that Brighton is silted up. And I didn't realise Mrs. SAQ was G4 SAP, Helen. So I wonder if we'll see her on the telly anytime soon. James, good to see you on H265. And Gareth, yeah, I might have a crack at JV then tomorrow. I did fire 70 watts at it the other day with no trace of a signal. So maybe your filter will fix that. Martin, good to see you on KOE Martin, and using my camera. And yeah, your garage setup still looking very good. Very happy birthday, Colin. And I was glad to see your Morse key because look at this. Look, I haven't seen another one of these for years. But that's the one I use on my SDR transceiver. Sublime to the ridiculous, really. And good to see you again, Jim. I haven't seen you for ages. And well done for bending the dish back into shape. I don't know, perhaps had it gone out of shape, or had it never been spot on? I don't know. John, I missed a bit of your over. You kept dropping out here. But then towards the end of the over, everything was fine, and plenty of signal here, so don't know why that was. And I liked your smiley-faced bracket. Very good. Right, well, that's well, apart from to say this is the latest one under the microscope. Look at that. It's an Accurankle. They're actually, you can get them quite cheap now, Accurists, and really old ones like this. This is an early 70s one. But they're really quite nice movements. Anyway, that's enough of that. Right, so I will pass it on to Bernie, and I haven't seen you for ages, Bernie. So looking forward to seeing what you've been up to. So G4HJW to take it with the net. G4 Fox Kilo Kilo standing by.
Have I come up? Don't think so. Anyway, yes, thank you, Martin. it's a nice welcome, and it's really nice to be back. You're absolutely right. It's about 6 months since I was last on, and isn't it amazing? You drop out of something more than say 3 or 4 weeks, and then you don't exactly forget, but the time passes, so it is a bit embarrassing. Since then, I hadn't done a lot on here, but I'll just go over to the camera. And I think it was Mike, you were mentioning the Polycom 2 weeks ago, and you said it was only £18, or you said it was cheap. And, well, cheap would really get my attention. And so I bought one. That's what I'm using now. I'm very pleased with it. I could do with more contrast on the picture, but I really struggle with a combination of, what am I using? I thought I'd written all that down. Yes, DATV Express and VMix. And to try and stop my hair from bleaching out, being this aged white, I had to drop contrast. It's still far better, the picture quality, than it was on the old analog camera. So I'm very pleased with that, Mike. Thanks for telling it. Well, it looks like everybody else has gone over it, the number of people who mentioned it. I hope I managed to go through enough things. I've certainly got my pad here, particularly about the optical stuff. That was fortunate to come on. You're quite right, John. You put that email through the non-wave reflector, and that started a bit of conversation, mainly because I wanted to put my 4 pence in. But that was a super article. For everybody else, John found a really good article on Fresnel lenses, absolutely detailed. Nothing in there that was either unclear or that you felt was inaccurate. So well done, John. It was so clear that I had to try and bring in a note of annoyance, I suppose. But it did generate a few more emails, which I was pleased about. Whether that spent enough time on that? Oh, yes, to you, Gareth. I think what John was saying, because the video was, I should think, 2 years ago, and my memory is completely shot these days, it will be easier to find the talk at Coventry. And also, because Dave pushed my arm further up my back than was comfortable, I did the 2 articles as well afterwards. So that might be a better thing to do. But if you still want me to give a brief outline, given that there's a lot of us on now, what time is it? Yeah, I'll do that on the next over if there's time. But I write things so much better than I speak them, because my brain works at about quarter speed compared to everybody else. Right, back to here. Oh, what else to do? As well as that camera, Mike, you talked about, your picture is always so good, and you talked about using a lower frame rate. So I set this one to 30 a second, which I think I had to do. I don't think it would allow me to do anything else, but I was getting flicker when I had these lights, which are GU10 LED. So I quickly built up a box. So they are switched mode supplies in the LED lamps in the GU10s, but I've built a box I can put in between that has a bridge rectifier and a huge smoothing cap of about 330 microfarad, and that, I think, let's have a look. Yeah, that's completely killed the annoying beat note that was in there, so I'm pleased about that. Oh, I think James has gone, but that paddle looked the size of a ping pong bat, because just the fact that you were aiming the unit at the camera and the distance range was quite large. I couldn't work out what it was for a start. I got quite a shock. So once you realise, of course, your brain clicks into place. Oh, I want to go back to something. What was that? Yes, that talk. Since John mentioned that talk, I'd given talks before when I was with Jenny. We gave talks at a local club, but my one and only visit to the US was the microwave do when it was in Dallas, and we did visit the grassy knoll afterwards, but we don't have time to talk about that. And Sam had said, if you're going to come over, you must give a talk. And on all these occasions, it was the best advice anyone could give, because when people don't know you and you're walking around, they tend not to speak to you. And I wonder if that's human nature, that they're not quite sure, since they don't know you, whether you're going to put a knife in their back. But if you've given a talk, they just think, oh, he's nice and cuddly, and everybody just comes up to you and talks like a long lost friend. Well, that's being British, I suppose we are in a way. Right, enough on that one. Oh, I'll tell you something else on this setup. I'm using a wireless mouse on the laptop here, and I thought that would be killed when I went on transmit, but it hasn't done, so I'm very pleased with that. And it was a £3 wireless mouse from Poundland. It just shows what insulation does. I believe Woolworths used to be like that. And it's very cheap, but it works really well. Whoever designed it out of thin plastic has got it just right, and I actually like it despite the fact that it's that cheap. So those of you who aren't too ashamed to go into Poundland, I would say go in. Colin, you mentioned PCBs. I forget where you said they were made. Were they UK? No, I don't think they were. I haven't bought PCBs. Well, the optical transceiver would be the last ones I bought, and I'd started to go to China, and they were wonderful. But this was before the pandemic, and before China got a bit more stroppy with us, and prices seem to have jumped up. So I don't know whether those companies are still as welcoming or as cheap as they were. And that crystal set, sorry, I'm conscious of the time. I've got to say, I'll just say this one last thing before I put it over. Very interesting that two of you have been talking about crystal sets tonight, because at our radio meet today, because Thursdays there's about 4 or 5 of us get together, and one chap brought in a crystal set, a homemade one, but very nicely done. But instead of the switched inductance, it was using a variometer, but it did have a Galena crystal. And of course you could see he hadn't made the cat's whisker holder, and I think firms like Bulgin and whatever at that time would make all these little bits, and really all you had to do was woodwork case. But it was interesting, there were no capacitors in it, so it relied on self-resonance. And there's no decoupling, of course, after the detector, so you got medium waves or whatever going straight into the headphones as well. Oh, and I agree with who was it made the comment about putting a bit of forward bias on. That's always a good suggestion as well, except of course you've defeated the notion that you're not putting any power in. Right, I've said too much, so that won't wait anyway till the next one. So it's Roger, G3. Oh, I'll put it onto the let's go on to the test card. If I get the right mouse, better do that. So yes, hello Roger, because you've I've watched. Oh, I've been watching, by the way, plenty of times since I've been off, and so I've been saying hello to you, Roger, even though you couldn't hear me at the other end. So I know you, but you won't know me, which is how it should be, really. On to you, G4.
G4HJW with the group and Roger as well. I wasn't wasn't ready for this. Get rid of my sound. Yes, good evening all. What am I doing? It's definitely caught me by surprise there. Yes, I'm on the Polycam this week. Not that I've done an awful lot with it, but I think I got sound. Yes, I know I've got sound because I heard myself there a minute ago. And thanks for all the tips last week. Of all sorts of things have been happening. And I know how to use the preview buttons. That's the HS station there, and I think also I think it was Mike was saying that I could use a monitor on the sort of monitor one and take the video from the other output. Then it doesn't have all the informational displays on it. So that's all good fun, and just learning to play with things, and things like James, if you're still there, that's on your little key. That's what I use. That's a solid state twin panel by 9 a. I'm trying to. I can't remember it. I should have written myself a note. That is 9A5N. Bought that at Freedom 7 a couple of years ago, and it doesn't have any contacts, but it feels exactly like an ordinary key, only the contacts never get dirty, and you never have to adjust the tension. And then the other thing that's on my narrowband stuff, that's what I use. And the thing they both have in common is they're pretty heavy, and even I can't push them around when I get excited with things. So what else? Yes, plus the time scales of getting the boat sorted out. I had the advantage when I kept my boat. It was only in the water for 6 months of the year, possibly 7 if we thought it was going to be a good autumn. So there was plenty of time to get things done, make a start as soon as the boat was taken out of the water, and you had plenty of time if there were any complications or finding the bits that you needed. Colin, happy birthday. It's on my list here. And working is just something you have to do, but I must admit it's nice not having to do that anymore. Jim, your crystal set, well, whether it works or not, and it looks quite stylish, and the box and everything else. I think that's part of it. It's got to look good as well, and it certainly does that. I guess most of us probably started with crystal sets. And John, yes, the work with the optics and all the rest was just shorter wavelengths. I do have a Meade LX10 sitting downstairs in the kitchen. The Bangor, the light pollution is such, I just can't see anything from here, and because I've got more interested in radio, don't really fancy going out to dark locations, all the effort, when I've got the warmth of the shack here. And Martin, things were ticking away nicely for you there. It's funny how we all seem to have parallel hobbies. So radio's only one of the other intense things. Maybe says something about the wiring of the brain. And Bernie, what you were saying about the bleaching out of the hair with the contrast and the rest. My problem is the reflections. You really need the wee powder puff to go round with all that. So apart from that, I wasn't at Martlesham because I was at Norbreck, and can't be in two places at once. And because there was a couple of us went over with a van. Not that I bought anything big or anything like that, but it was nice to get out. So I'm just going should I be passing it on to Roger again? Yep. Okay, Roger, give another go. Good luck this time. G3 IUZ with the BATC group. This is GI4DOH.
Oh, I wonder if I've succeeded with the reboot, whether that's done the trick. Succeeded with the reboot. Right, that's this is very frustrating. I really don't quite understand whether the reboot and OBS and that seems to have done the trick. Anyway, good evening to everybody, and particularly happy birthday to Colin. That's delightful, and another notch on the bedpost, as it were. Well done. This is on the C920 camera, but I was one of the lucky ones who managed to get one of the little polycoms, and but I'm not quite sure whether I've really got it sort of tweaked up properly. So there we are. That's the picture from the Polycon, and that is zoomed in a little bit, but the definition doesn't seem to be quite so good. Even if we sort of go in quite close, I don't know. It looks a bit, and I've tried playing around with the print presets, but I'm not really satisfied. It does seem to need more light than the C920. So let's go back to that. Hit the right button. So that's Polycon. Okay, on the crystal sets, yes. Well, I bought my very first AR-88 by making lots and lots of crystal sets and selling them to boys at school using tank headphones, which were high impedance and were available for a few shillings at our local surplus store. So a handsome profit was made, and eventually an AR-88 was acquired, yeah, that's where we went on from there. Key, there's my my original key. That's an American, as used in the American Air Force during the war, and it's been my old faithful key ever since for the last 70 years. So probably recognize that one. Right, and the final thing is just say a big thank you to Rob, G0DTS. I don't know whether he's listening tonight, but he's been very helpful through the BATC messaging, trying to help me with the Winter Hill receiver. I think it's a problem with Norton, which is what I've been using for quite a few years for as the sort of security, and I found that I've just recently updated my main computer, as it was getting very out of date, to try Windows 11, and I haven't put Norton on that, just relying on the built-in security now boasts, and lo and behold, the Winter Hill receiver works beautifully, no problem. So curious, isn't it? There we are. So I think it's a problem with Norton messing about with the firewall. Right, that's enough for me. We've got a very big net tonight, so I think it goes to you now, Dave, and thank you for apologies again for being with this sound problem that does seem to beset me. So G8GKQ to take it, G3IUZ.
G3IUZ and the net G8GKQ. Yeah, sorry, I was jumped on you at the end there, Roger. I was a bit quick on the switch, but good to see you up there. Generally, I find it's only if you take the ports down to receive or standby and restart the streaming out of OBS, then put the ports down back on transmit. Generally, I find that cures it. You don't need to reboot the ports down, just needs to come out of transmit. and back into transmit. That was the issue I had at 8 o'clock. So I managed to cure it fairly quickly, but it's a network type issue. Right, well, lots there. I think the highlights were envious of Colin finding the stealth amplifier there. Bernie, I have got the same comment about bleaching out. I bleach out on head reflection, not hair reflection, so I'm envious of that. And good on all the polycoms. Roger, I got the feeling there was light coming in the side of your polycom, because there was a bit of sort of flare at one side. I can get the same effect here. If I do that, I think you'll see the dark bits on the picture sort of lighten up. Oh yes, they do, nicely. So I wonder if that was some of the issue. But yeah, they're different characteristics, but they're pretty good cameras. I'm pretty impressed with them. John, that light system was really nice. And Jim from the Morse unit up to H.265. There's a good range there. Right, what have I got to say? Well, I went to the Andover Rally on Sunday. It was great to see loads of people there. I bought odds and ends like two pairs of computer speakers with amplifiers, a bit like this one here, and they're going into my Portsdown double. So just marked out, you probably can't see that, just marked out all the holes I'm going to put in the side for where the speaker noise is going to come out of. Most of this metalwork I'm doing for the Portsdown double seems to end up on my garage floor, and leaving little bits that are going to be the case, but lots of work going on that. The other thing I've been doing is looking at Wi-Fi configuration on the Portsdown, and here we go, a live demo. Stand by. Fade to that. Back to there. So here we are. We're looking at a Portsdown remote screen here, just to demo this. Menu 3, which you'll all be aware of. And now the Wi-Fi config button has got something behind it. So from this Wi-Fi config menu here, you can list the Wi-Fi networks like that. And hopefully, yep, once it's seen them, it will show all the Wi-Fi networks. You can only see 4 here. Portsdown's one of my test networks, and one of those is the house network. So you can list those networks, and I won't do the setup because this one is actually connected over Wi-Fi and it'll unset itself. You can check the Wi-Fi status. Which tells you what it's connected to. Enable or disable, and reset, which deletes all the entries. That's in the latest development version. I've had a couple of reports about it. We'll end up doing some a bit more testing, and then that'll go out for release. So that's the other thing I've been on. Let's just get rid of that one. Get rid of that, and hopefully find a C920 camera and fade back to it. There we go. Congratulations, to both Roger and to Tim for their placings in the RSGB construction competition. It was great to see 2 BATC projects in the RSGB construction competition. Right, I'll leave it at that for now. A very quick round once again, and it goes straight to Gareth. So G4XAT to take it. I will just press enter here, and then the new order will come up. G4XAT to take it from GHGKQ and the BATC Net.
The BATC Net.
Right, that's promising. Yep, I hear noise. Okay, very exciting. Silence. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. G4XAT picking it up. Right, transition would be a good idea. Well, we all had fun at rallies, didn't we? I saw a couple of these, and on Tuesday night, John showed how he mounted his. So I rummaged in my SMA and hardline box, soldered those two up today, and I guess it's a Vivaldi, for those who are wondering what I'm waving around. I guess it's like a dipole, it's just a broadband dipole. So it'll have a vertical and it'll have a horizontal, I assume. And fire it at a dish and orientate the dish accordingly. I assume that is correct. Okay, yeah, happy birthday, Colin, if you're still around. Well done on that. Looking forward to JV tomorrow morning. I think that should be an easy access now that it's not listening to all sorts of other rubbish. Bernie, I think I saw your original talk. Was it 2018 at CAT? And I just wondered where it went. I will rewatch the video, and that will probably do. I've got plenty of other things to be going on with, but it caught my eye. Something else I recalled, and now the Portsdown's got Wi-Fi on it. Have any of you fiddled around with broadband Hamnet, in particular the reprogramming of old Linksys routers, and using them on the 13 SEMS band for your own private network and stuff? I'm not sure there's an application there, but since I've got 3 of them all programmed up and talking to each other, it did cross my mind. I think that's it probably, except for PAs. It's being really difficult to find the components. It's getting dark, isn't it? And I was just looking for capacitors. Okay, so that's the W6PQL 600 watt special. I'm going to try that with one of my nice 77 PA devices, and in the meantime, somewhere, I've got the Spectrian PA PCBs. I'm going to take that to bits. I found the high voltage capacitors, no problem. But it's things like the 100 volt ceramics and so on. It's like, why are they hard to get? Whatever, such is life, I guess. Right, okay. That will do from me, I think. I really will try and do something about the fans, because I was listening to one of the recordings put up on YouTube the other day, and I thought my audio sounds awful. So I need to do something about that. You've all been too kind to say anything. Anyway, here we go. Test card. Round to you, Martin. G8 KOE from G4XAT in the
Right, we'll go straight into me and forget the test card. And yes, I'm shiny everywhere, so I do suffer that problem. Right, we seem to have got sound, so we'll use that. Yeah, I'll go straight over to my Polycom, which this is it. This is the picture I get from it. It's quite frightening. It focuses in okay. Alright. That's one of my cameras up there. That's not Martin FKK's camera. This one is on the windowsill. Round there. Oh, just for good measure. There's the cat. What else can I talk about really? Probably not a lot. Probably everybody is wants to get on. Let's go back to the main camera. But yeah, outside's no good anymore. But the good old remote works well. So I'll call it a day at that one. I'll try and I've got plenty of other bits and pieces I've been playing with, but let's put it round to all the light communication. I'm not getting into that, John. I think the last time I played with that was with a Danset, I think it was Danset or something, record player, which I'd an OC71 and was communicating from the bottom of the garden to the top. It's a bit lethal because it was one of those sort of live chassis arrangements, and I was just taking things off to a bit of a lethal sort of. Anyway, right, round to you there, John. I won't put a test card up. I'll just drop out and give it to you from Golf 8 Kilo Oscar Echo.
Sorry, I don't on the wrong screen. Sorry, I've been watching the beach over in. For Gareth, what you actually need is an NVIDIA video card when it comes up. So, as you can hear at the moment, this is my voice with the noise removal on. I should take the noise removal off. So you can hear the fans. So that's the fans in the background. I've taken the noise removal back on. There we go. The only disadvantage is that when you do things like if you try and whistle, it doesn't get it, and sometimes claps don't work either. There you go. So brilliant, but very expensive way of getting rid of noise. Anyway, right, let me just do. Yes, I actually noticed just recently. I've got to get rid of my audio now. Hang on a sec. Right, we've done all right actually. I say we as a hobby, as in DATV. I saw Gareth first. I'm pretty sure it was first up at Mark. DATV. HF seems to still be predominant. Awards have been won basically by DATVers, so yeah, it's fantastic. I still personally, and I'm somewhat biased, believe it's the forefront of technology, the forefront of everything. And Dom, or if you're not, are in your neck of the week, Dublin. And I'm sure there's something else I was supposed to say about the bits and come down. Probably not. Anyway, I won't worry about it. Yeah, one of the things I meant to say about the audio side of things, this phone is super cool to do. Can I show you on this? Possibly can. No, I want to do that one. So earlier on, so I was just mucking around in the front room earlier, and hang on a sec. handles. Right. So, no, it's going for today. But one of the things on this phone is you've got various different audio spectrum analyzers, and little device which is just sends a tone and Morse code. Anyway, not I was still able to see it, but with the phone connected to the optical gear, I was able to actually tune and move the thing around. Really pretty useful. As much as we take laptops out of us and stuff, I do think that we need to. That was that. Right, and one last. As there are some professional types on tonight, it's a boom microphone. Five-pin connector on it. Is it a directional microphone? Is it a waveformed microphone, or is it a noise cancelling microphone? It just before I try and wire it up to the what's the thing called, the UMC 202 HD thing that I've got. So anyway, I just wonder if anybody's any idea on that. So with that, I shall pass it back around to Martin, G4FKK, G7JTT in the.
Yeah, fine, John. Oh, forgot I'd left that on the test card. G7JTT, G4FKK returning, and all very interesting. Well, that mic, John, I don't recognise it as one I've ever used, but by the sound, if it's got a left and right, are they actually left and right? They're probably omnis, and in that case, it's probably an old ENG M&S microphone. So rather than having left and right, it's got mono and side, or stereo. On my ppm meter on the screen there, that's reading M&S. So the white needle is the mono part of the signal, and the yellow one is the stereo part. And I'm only running mono, so the stereo one's not moving. But I imagine you could probably use it for noise cancelling as well. It does depend a bit on what those two other microphones, what pattern they've got. The long end one probably means it's directional, and so probably used for news gathering. Roger will probably know better than I do, to be honest. Anyway, Bernie, if you're still there, great picture. The frame rate was a bit low, but I think you've got that set to a low rate on OBS or vMix or whatever else you're running there. The little Polycom minis are very good. I've got two now, but no one else has said this happens to them. But I don't know if you let's have a look, see if you can see it. When you turn them off, you shut down that thing in the middle there, and when you open it, that switches it on. But on both of mine, if I turn that so that those what are they called? You know what I mean? Are completely invisible like that. it turns itself off again. So I have to have them showing slightly, which is it's not a problem, but it's no one else has mentioned that. Yeah, I think it's a good camera and it's nice and cheap, but I don't think it's quite as good as the C920. But it's about a tenth of the price, isn't it, these days? So I think they're rather good. Dave, I was doing some testing with your dev software for the ports down, and you'll be glad to hear that although I get a sort of strange skittery noise when I run the Wi-Fi, Gareth did the same test today on Oscar 100, and he was not getting that effect. So I haven't quite determined whether it's the Wi-Fi signal coming out of the Raspberry Pi, because my USB sound card is quite close to that and not screened from the Pi. I'm running 2.4 gigs up to the satellite. So that's that. Roger, yes, it's infuriating, isn't it? This does happen a lot in DATV, something that works perfectly all day. For one day, it doesn't work the next morning. That's perfectly normal. And I did a similar thing when I was at primary school, in fact. I used to build little crystal sets, not proper ones, but with OA81s, I think, and flog them off to my compatriots at school. I think I charged 2 shillings each or something, which was quite a bit cheaper than the bits cost, since my dad got them from a friend of his at work. And I got into trouble there. I think I mentioned before, as an aerial for the crystal sets, I used to scrape a bit of paint off the green painted climbing frame and put a croc clip on it for the aerial. And I got caught doing that by the headmaster, who was not impressed, and stopped my embryonic radio business quite early on. What was the other thing? Richard, oh yeah, Richard, I wonder how Norbreck was. Just that went well. It's a bit too far north for me at the moment without a car. Gareth, I like the Vivaldi aerials. That's a new one on me, so do a bit of research there. And yeah, John, your noise cancelling, I don't know if it was the headset or something in the card, but that worked well. Right, okay, well that's probably enough from me. Oh, the only reason I was waving my Morse key about was because it was the same one that Colin was waving about earlier as well. So I do have a squeeze key, but it's not. It's got springs and contacts on it, Richard. But I'm very fond of it. Right. I don't think there was anything else from me, so I shall pass it, therefore, on to Bernie, and let's see. Hopefully, see you all next week, and perhaps some of you will. Oh no, I'm not around Tuesday. I'm in Wales on Tuesday, so let's find someone with some equipment. I wonder if I can persuade my son to load up stuff on his computer. Anyway, with that, round to you, Bernie. G4HJW and the BATC Net, G4FKK signing off. I'll be listening all the way round. See you all later. Bye.
Right, I think that should have come up. Okay, Martin, thank you for that. And I missed out so many things on that last over. This is what happens when you're away 6 months. And I hadn't been coming on because I was feeling a bit embarrassed about the lack of content I was able to add. So, you know, tonight I'm paying for that by having too much. Or John is paying for that because there's so many things I wanted to come back to, John, that I missed. I mean, your telescope, fantastic. And that was the thing I should have been saying to you. So sorry about that. That was awful. But with all this talk about, I will come back to that, I hope, if I don't forget. All this talk about crystal sets, I must show you that. Now, I don't have any printer printing things like this, but Jenny, GZVQH, does. And so she gave me the bits, and I just put 8 turns on, and with that standard old valve capacitor used as a thingy stator one, so I'm not using the ground frame at all. That will tune from 80 meters down to about 1.5 meg. And what it reminds you of when you use something like this is that given that that area is really not so different from what a lot of the early radios were, valve radios that had this sort of antenna, you realise that, I mean, this is about 20 dB more sensitive than a small ferrite rod aerial, so which I've noticed that before, but it is nice. I was pleased Jenny did that. Nice little project that was. And rallies, it does look as though a lot of us missed Martlesham because there were so many things on. Now, I wanted to sell off the remaining bits that Ian had, G3KKD, which I'll come on to that. That was the one thing that didn't sell. Come on to that in a minute. So I was at the Cambridge Peter Group rally. I know Kevin got down there, so he should have had his stall. Kevin is, I don't know how he manages it, but every time he goes down to Martlesham for the microwave do, he also, by total coincidence, has some type of approval work to do for Tunstall, who he works for, at Martlesham. That's very strange, that, isn't it? Right, I need that pad, don't I? Oh, because that tells me everything I need to remember. Oh, yes, other builds. What I completely forgot. I'll show you what I've been doing. Since we've talked about crystal sets, no one can complain if I tell you what this project was, which I had been doing. So the last one I did, semi-major, given that I was really needing to tidy up the place after several years of neglect. There are a lot of people on 80 meters AM. Yes, I'm afraid I do like 80 meters AM. Talking about Class E stages. Well, I'm a bit bumptious, as I think you know. And I thought, well, Class E and Class C, they're not quite the same thing. But when you think what people are trying to achieve in the early days, they're all trying to achieve high efficiency, and I really don't like the difference. So I've not, having a different classification. But one day, with 5 minutes to spare, I had a look on the web at a circuit, and I saw that that particular circuit was using a power CMOS driver. I'd never come across those chips before. This was a TO220, a T something with a 4421 that will sync and source 12 amps. And I thought, wow, given that I tend to use an IFP 450 in the PAs, which will give me up to 100 watts, just a single device with high enough volts. I thought, well, I'll try that. But the interesting thing that so that's really what this project was all about. I use a SIGGEN for the source, and you can see I use that audio processor. So it really is trying to make a neat job. I'll go back to the... Oh, and I had an old 1C31 tube, so I had to put that in. But really, that was just me learning from the past, and any experimental bits, trying to do them nice enough so you don't have to take them apart because they're so awful afterwards. But an interesting thing, if you're into amateur, what's the word? I'm going to forget that word, Sage. I'm always taken aback by common mode misconceptions. Now, in the article about the AM transmitter, I then carried on and looked for other articles, and they all said not only use the chip on the input, which really does, even the very highly capacitive FET, it really does pull that down very quickly and pull it up highly. So no argument with that, and that was worth knowing about. So I did learn something new. But all the articles talk about the output stage needing to have a series tuned circuit at the frequency you want to attain high efficiency. Well, I knew that was wrong. It just was wrong. So mine is simply a step up Ferrite transformer into a conventional low pass filter with a shunt, with an opening shunt capacitor, so the worst thing you might expect. So the logic of requiring a series tuned circuit is, I can see what the guy was thinking of, but it's an urban myth. And the thing was, what you then realise is the 4 or 5 articles, 6 articles that you see around are all derived from an original design. I love these urban myths. Right, I've said enough about that. I'm short of things. Oh, at the rally, there's one thing I couldn't sell, which I have Ian's KKDs. Let me bring this down. Hope I don't get too many reflections off that. Apologies, Richard, and several others about reflecting off the head. Sorry about that. Well, the hair it's the one good thing I've got, by the way. I've still got my own hair and most of my teeth. Now, Ian, I noticed this when I first moved into the next village 30 years ago. Ian didn't do what everybody else did, cheap like, and use a Yagi. He used a broadside array. And this being the BATC, there'll be plenty of you remember his articles with I'm going to have to look it up. I remember Paul quite well. Yeah, G8GML. They did these multi-element antennas, and this is either 22 dBd gain or 18. I can't remember which. But there's all the articles there. It was the one thing that wouldn't sell at the rally, but so many people commented on it and said, "Oh yes, I've got lots of those." Oh no, I've had a couple of those in the past. They work really well. So it was a good conversation piece, but nobody wanted to talk about them. And isn't this case wonderful? I think what Ian must have done, I mean, I know he did plenty of articles. I think he must have given plenty of talks. So Ian, being Ian, built up with this lovely case so he could take this with him on talks. And round the side, he even went to the trouble, if this doesn't fall out, where the stub mast is, look at that. So it sticks through, but he put protection on there. Ian was just brilliant at the things he built. Right, got to get on. There's too many of us on here. Let me see what's on the remaining on the board. Where's my pad? I did miss a lot. Oh, Mike, yes, thank you for the comments about flicker. I'll have a look at that. I only got this camera this week, so I was in a flat panic. I got it all working Tuesday and thought it was Thursday, so I was in a bit of a panic to get it working. So, yes, thank you for that. I'll have a look. And oh, Gareth, have you... I assume you know about the SMD bank on the microwave group, so I don't really want to give Mike, the other Mike, a look on his webpage, because I know he's got some ATCs in there. And the one thing I will say, it is, given the rush tonight for everybody, lots of us being on, I'm just having a look. I've got lots of audio. No, that's okay. The conventional thinking about optical receivers is that you're looking at the voltage from the diode or the LED if you're using it as a reverse bias LED on receive. So you have a very high input impedance FET stage, which is tens of megohms. I mean, it really is. But obviously there's a limit to the flatness of the response due to the diode capacitance, and in a minor way the input capacitance of the FET, but it's really the detector diode. So people have said, because the roll-off starts below 1 kc, that really you can't use that sort of circuitry on a higher frequency, which is wrong, because it does not take into account the fact that your background noise, the stage noise of the FET buffer, is actually quite high when you're in many tens of megohms. And actually, as the frequency goes up, the noise goes down almost pro rata with the gain. So the one thing I would say about the DATV over optical was that I used the lowest frequency I could, which I think was 250, the lowest thingy rate, 250 kilowatt lots. And again, this is age, sorry. So I was then having effectively a carrier at 125 kilohertz. And that worked remarkably well and disproved that you wouldn't get any distance. Now, there's nobody else had the gear, so I had to use the garden and then extrapolate up. And I think I said that with a flat light LED, the 18 watt things, you would get you should get 50 mile. So, but that's another example of this common mode misconceptions, the urban myths. Something else. Iris, I get exactly the same thing. Was that you, Martin, mentioned this iris on this new camera, this Polycom? As I begin to shut it, the signal just switches off. And I don't know whether when it's fully open, beyond what it normally is, it switches off. I don't know, I haven't checked that. But when I wanted to bring the light levels down, I couldn't use that. It wanted to switch off straight away. But here's a question really for Mike. I think you know more detail, or as much detail as anybody else. I see that this camera autofocuses, but when I put my ear against it, I mean it's so small, when I put my ear against it, I can't hear anything mechanical happening. And for the life of me, I can't understand how you could autofocus electronically. So can somebody put me out of my misery? Maybe next week, because I'm almost the last one on, aren't I? So that's autofocus. Yes, that's lovely, John. I like what you've done on for the optical. No, that wasn't autofocus, was it? Don't know what that was. I'll forget that. I liked what you're using for focusing, John. That was very good. Because I'd assumed that was a tube. The silver that was showing was the tube that the original board went in. But of course, any bigger tube is better. I mean, you'll see that I was limited for space, so the heatsink on the modulator is as big as I could make it, and that's what really limits the power output, because it's incredibly inefficient. So half a watt for the LED is about 3 watts, I think, in the modulator, and I can't get a big heatsink in. So having the bigger tube would be better. And Roger, the frustration, I know exactly what you mean. I get things happen here, and I have no digital knowledge at all. And it's fine when it's working, but when it goes wrong, it just annoys me so much. Because there was an age before digital, with radio and analog, I seem to have a good idea of most things, and I peak of knowing about plenty of things, and I'm down the other side because I just can't keep up with digital. Right, I'm talking too much. I think I've gone through everything. It's been really nice coming on again tonight. Oh, Richard, yes, nice to see you on again, Richard, but I do keep watching in, so yeah, as I say, I'm used to seeing everybody nearly every week, but it's just that I haven't been transmitting. So on to you, Roger, G3RUZ and the group. As I say, nice to hear everybody again. Let me, can I put onto that? Yeah, I can put the test card on again. I'll just do that before I sign, and I'll listen through to the end. Hope I haven't missed anything. Particularly with you, John, because I did like what you'd done, and I did really like your email to the Nanowave group. That was absolutely excellent. Right, good night all, and can I D-key somewhere I can? I haven't got the right mouse. I can't.
All right. Well, thanks, Bernie. Great range of contacts, great range of subjects there to work your way through. So I'll keep this very brief because I see time has certainly marched on tonight. First of all, thank you very much for the kind remarks on the construction competition at the RSGB. Particularly thanks to you, Dave. Well, two Daves actually, but to you, Dave GKQ, because if you hadn't sent me the email on Sunday evening, I wouldn't have known anything about it. I completely had forgotten. I'd watched the last part of the RSGB AGM webinar because I particularly wanted to see the presentation on the meteor beacon, but I hadn't watched the RSGB. Must forgive me. I hadn't watched the AGM stuff, so of course I'd completely missed the announcement of the awards. So they haven't been in touch with me. So had you not sent me the email kindly, Dave, I wouldn't have known anything about it. And as I say, I'd completely forgotten. I'd sent the entry in. So there we are. Anyway, very sweet of you all. Right. Yes. On the mic. Well, Mike is now saying. They don't noisy switch, so we'll have to see if we can dismantle it and have a look then. Thanks for that, Mike, and we're missing you tonight, apart from all the remarks you're putting up. So that's really it. There's only just one last question on the Winter Hill. I think I've now got it all sorted out, ready to go in its box. But I'm not sure about whether to bother with the front panel, because I'm not quite sure. I know what the front panel buttons do on the Ryde, because I've built one. But what do the front panel buttons, if you have them, do on the Winter Hill? I don't quite get that, but I'm sure it's pretty obvious, but a bit old and a bit sick. So good night to everybody. Thank you very much for a most entertaining evening, as always. Absolutely delightful. And it goes to you, Richard, across the water. So GI4DOH, you take it, and then it goes to Dave to tie the ribbons. Night, night, everybody.
G3IUZ with the BATC Net. This is GI4DOH. Thanks, Roger. And I'd like to reiterate that question as well. Yeah, what's the front panel for on the Winter Hill? Because I'd printed a 3D template for the Ryde, I did the same for the Winter Hill and meticulously put all the buttons on and labeled them and all the rest. But yeah, what do they do? It's I'm not aware of them having any functions, so it would be interesting to know that. I'm just checking with my little sound mute switch there and just making sure it did have sound. I'll not comment on many things there, but yes, Martin, you're asking about Norbreck. Norbreck was good, apart from the fact there weren't any of the big traders. Because we had a ban, if I could have got a massive big 70-centimeter aerial suitable for portable use, I would have done so. I did have my eye on one, and it might well be a certain European company that I'll go to on account of that, because their shipping charge is no more than the shipping charge from the mainland. But yes, Rob, M0DTS was there. It was good to have an eyeball QSO with him. And of course the BATC stand, something of special interest to me. So that was good to see the guys there and all the rest. And indeed, I look forward to the BATC stand at Friedrichshafen when the time comes. And Dave, I'm going to be there and I should be available. Apart from that, at Norbreck, the only thing of substance that I bought was this, it's a BNOS 70-centimeter amplifier. I do have the Dolphin amp, which I've been having a bit of trouble with going into oscillation, and interestingly, Rob said, oh yes, a couple of people had trouble with them oscillating. I didn't actually know the cure, but I think possibly going some way between the really mean bias and the original fairly heavy sort of standby current just might be what it takes. There's nothing else that had changed as far as I know. Well, the nice thing about the BNOS amplifier is it is 12 volts or 13.8 volts, so maybe more suited to portable use. That'll keep me busy. I did get it fired up last night. Haven't got it up to 100 watts yet, but it's on its way. It was previously used at a somewhat higher frequency. So enough from me. I won't be around for the next 2 weeks between local elections here, so we're being evicted from our usual council venue. But the Wigtownshire Amateur Radio Club, which we're twinned with, also has their meeting next week, and they've invited us to join their Zoom meeting. So we'll do that, and then we'll have our own club meeting the next week. But it should be around the week after that. So wish you all 7-3s good evening. Thanks for the chat. It's always good to get on. We actually see people, not just listen to them. On the last thing, yes, I do use a straight key occasionally, just so we don't lose it. But rarely use it on the air. So around you, Dave, GKQ with the group. This is GI4DOH. Good night, all.
GI4DOH and the net G8GKQ. Okay, Richard. Questions were about those front panel buttons. The original idea was that we would have had a Ryde Mark II that would use that PCB and avoid the need for having the USB modules. We're still working on a concept similar to that, but we haven't got there yet. As always, it comes down to resource in software writing, and in this occasion the hardware is ahead of the software. But one day they may have a function. Pleased to hear that Norbrecht was good, and I gather there was a Cure 100 demo from Warrington ARC, so that's excellent, Richard. Roger, that 80 meter set, sorry, that Richard, was it Richard? No, who was doing it was Bernie. The 80 meter rig looked good. So what with crystal sets, 80 meters and light waves, I think we've covered everything this evening. Polycom cameras, the USB switching ones. One of my cameras only cuts the video when you close the iris or the shutter or whatever you want to call it. And the other camera intermittently cuts the video at when the iris is fully open. So it is a sort of fault condition on some of the cameras, unfortunately, and I would be interested to know if anybody finds the easy cure. Porting Longmin's software to Android, that's a good project. Volunteers, please. And while we're talking about awards, yes, congratulations to Gareth for winning the QRP award with his ports down. So no, it's really good to get these things out there and get us publicity. Last thing, Gareth, the Vivaldi, yes, vertical or horizontal polarization, depending which way you put it, but I do believe it has more forward gain than a dipole would because of its shape. Kent, no doubt somewhere on his website, mentions it. So with that, I will close the net. Thanks very much to everybody for the interesting content, and look forward to seeing you all next week. But don't forget, get on the air and put your activity in the 77s and 6M ladders, please. Good night all. G8GKQ. Good night all. G8GKQ.
I completely forgot to put this picture up. This is a directional mic from the 1960s that John JTT was asking about. That's a BBC directional mic known as a rifle mic, and they were issued in about 1957-58. I don't know whether they're still used, but that was the first one we were ever issued with our OB unit, MCR10 from Birmingham, when I was working with the Beeb. And that's on Alton Water, just before we interviewed Mr. Cockcroft and his prototype hovercraft. Anyway, there we are. That's a directional mic, a la BBC. I don't know who made it, together with a Mark 1B camera, black and white, 3.5-inch